Good morning, Kipsters. Welcome to our third video of our note identifying lesson. I hope the first two videos were easy for you to follow along. If you need to go back and watch those again, feel free to stop this video now and check those over before we continue on our lesson. First, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about it and answer it at your own house, in your own head if you want, and then I will give you the answer. Okay, here's our first question. Can you remember notes on the lines to the treble clef? All right, remember this is treble clef. I'll give you 10 seconds. Okay, our lines. Every good boy deserves fruit. E, G, B, D, F. Remember, this is for the treble clef. Okay, our next question. Can you remember notes in the spaces of the treble clef? Spaces. I'll give you 10 seconds. For treble clef, space equals face. F-A-C-E. Okay? So we have every good boy deserves fruit. F-A-C-E for our spaces. Okay? That is our treble clef. Now remember, today we're going to do both treble and bass clef. Alright, so pause the video, breathe for a second. Moving on to bass clef. Now remember, the difference between the bass clef and treble clef is just this symbol. Alright, etch that symbol, treble clef over here, bass clef right here. Can you identify or remember notes on the lines of the bass clef? 10 seconds. Great big dogs frighten Alice. G, B, D, F, A. Okay, those are our lines of the bass clef. Our last question, the first part of the video, last question. Can you remember notes in the space of the bass clef? 10 seconds. All cows eat grass. A, C, E, G. Okay? Now, as we go through these cards here, I'm going to individually go through these cards one at a time, from bass clef to treble clef. And I wanted to at least give you a reason why we start with bass clef first. When we have a difference between a bass clef and a treble clef, for this instance, a blue card versus a green card, bass clef is for the low notes. So if I said I was singing in bass clef, I would sing like this. La 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 la. So that when we see this symbol right here, bass clef, we are playing low notes. All of our low notes go in the bass clef. If I'm singing treble clef, this is more for what the ladies sing. That is a treble clef, okay? Most of the time when we are singing our treble clef, they are high notes, and all the time when we sing our bass clef, they are low notes, okay? So I need you to remember that when we do bass clef, these low notes, that's why we start first, because they are lower. And there's one note in the middle that looks the exact same when you read it, and we'll get to that when we get there. First, we're gonna start with our bass clef, okay? So how this is gonna work? I'm gonna hold up a card. I'm going to give you 3 seconds to guess it on your own, and then I'm going to say the answer of what the card is, okay? Here's our first note in the bass clef. Remember, great big dogs frighten Alice. G. A. B. C, D, E, F, G. Remember when we go, when we have our alphabet of music, we go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then we go back to A. After A comes B. And our next card is the note I was referencing earlier about having the same treble and bass clef. It looks almost the same. So here we have what we call middle C. On top of the bass clef is middle C with the line going through it. On the bottom of the treble clef is middle C with the line going through it. So you can see that this note is always low. This one is low, and this is low sometimes, and it's low for this note right here. Middle C is the bottom of the treble clef and the top of the bass clef. I'll say that again. Middle C is the bottom of the treble clef, line going through it, invisible line, and the top of the bass clef. So this is where the notes, this is where the two staffs join together as one. And we have middle C here. And then we have middle C going into our treble clef. If you need to watch that again, feel free. That may have been a little confusing, but we will move on. This note we have not done much with, but after C comes D. And then we go to the notes that we know. Every good boy deserves fruit. So every, E, spaces on the treble clef equal face. So our first space is F, going on. G, A, B, F, A, face, F, A, C. These are mixed up. Sorry about that. Every good boy deserves. D, F, A, C, E, face. Every good boy deserves fruit. F. Okay, so that is a lot of information to take in. Please, again, watch the video. I have also attached the PDF for you guys to view on the notes on the staff, so it's easier for you to identify. Just wanted to make sure we remember before we end this video, when we're dealing with the bass clef, we really have to remember the differences, all right? The bass clef, all right? Great big dogs, Fright and Alice is how we remember the notes in the bass clef. All right, and all cows eat grass is how we remember the spaces of the bass clef. This is different from the treble clef. All right, here we have our treble clef. Lines, every good boy deserves fruit on the treble clef, treble. And spaces spell out face on the treble clef. So that is our biggest concern, and our worry is making sure we don't get those mixed up. Otherwise, you guys have done well so far on our exit tickets. Looking forward to our next lessons. Tomorrow we will be doing some singing, and then Friday we will have our virtual live lesson. Looking forward to that. Fun fact, as I was mentioning earlier about middle C and how those are the two notes that come together when we talk about treble and bass clef. Middle C is always the notes we start our warm-up on. So every day you warm up with Mr. Isaac, you're starting on middle C. All right, this is a very important note, and most of the time when we're doing solfege, which we'll talk about very soon, we start on middle C. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, remember this. Good luck on your exit tickets today. I will see you guys tomorrow, and have an awesome day.